This is the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast, your source for the strategies, systems, and smarts you need to turn possibility into purpose. Every week, we dive into dynamic conversations as our host, Nicole Greer, interviews leadership and business experts. They're here to shed light on practical solutions to the challenges of personal and professional development. Now, here's your host, a professional speaker, coach, and consultant, Nicole Greer.
Welcome, everybody, to the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. My name is Nicole Greer, and they call me the Vibrant Coach. And I have a brother from another mother as one of my guests today. Both of us have this hospitality running through our veins. In fact, look at these two books he sent me in the mail, and look behind him. He's got his posters on the wall. Taylor Scott is with me today. Taylor Scott is the best-selling author and inspirational keynote speaker and organizational development consultant. Through his books, workshops, keynotes, and licensed content, he inspires audiences at Fortune 500 companies, universities, and community organizations nationwide to become their best, deliver the best, and experience the best life possible. Taylor leverages his personal experiences in 20 years working in the hospitality industry for Disney Parks and Resorts, Gaylord Hotels and Resorts, Wynn Resorts, and the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas to connect with and inspire leaders at all levels. And we were just talking before we started the show. I'm going to Vegas, and guess where I'm staying? The Cosmopolitan. I know. So good, right? How are you?
On behalf of the Las Vegas market and everybody from the opening team of the Cosmopolitan, we welcome you.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, I didn't say this before we opened the show up, but I did work in the property management business. But one of the gentlemen that I worked for, he owned hotels here in Charlotte. And so I had a short stint in the hotel business as well. And I'll tell you, it's important to do what you're saying right here, lead with hospitality and learn to give hospitality. Taylor, how'd you get into the hospitality business?
For me, I grew up in a small town in eastern Kentucky, not too far from you,
Okay.
down in the Charlotte area. Yeah, eastern Kentucky, about an hour and a half east of Lexington. So, as you know, growing up in that part of the world, when it came time to go on vacation, we went to Walt Disney World every chance we could get. So, from a young, I think the first time my family went, I was 5 years old. So, I was just captivated from the time I was little. And then when it got time to start looking for colleges, I was looking for schools that were close to Walt Disney World. And so I wanted to go there and work. So for me, I kind of knew before I even left high school that I wanted to go to some sort of a business program or a hospitality related program. And so I did that. Florida Southern College down in Lakeland, Florida, 40 miles due west of Walt Disney World. Every single summer in college, I did the Walt Disney World college program where you would work in a different role in the show, as they say, each time you would go do it. So I did it 4 times, and I love it. I just fell in love with everything about it. And the older I've gotten, it switched from I loved making magic for people, for guests. And then when I started learning more about leadership, started experiencing leadership, I started falling in love with this opportunity to make magic for people that were on my teams. So here we are.
That's so great. Okay, so I have to know, what town in Eastern Kentucky?
Small town called Grayson. Now, here's the thing. There's Grayson County.
Okay.
That's not where I'm from. But
Okay.
there's Grayson, the town in Carter County, and that's where I'm from.
Okay. Because I have a wonderful client that I've worked with for many years over in Eastern Kentucky, and they own all the Double Quicks. Do you know Missy Matthews?
I do not.
Okay. All right. I just thought it's kind of a small world in Eastern Kentucky. She's in Whitesburg. Her home office is in Whitesburg. So.
Oh, wow. I know where Whitesburg is. We went down there. I think I was a junior or senior at East Carter High School. That's my school. We went down there and played in football one year, got killed. But yeah, that's deep. That's southeastern Kentucky, I think, right?
Okay. And so the reason you got beat is because Missy's husband, his name is Junior. He's the football coach, and that's how that works. Okay. All right. Well, I thought, wow, this is really weird. We have so much stuff in common. All right. So I love the fact that you are into hospitality, but you've got these 2 books. One is Give Hospitality, a hopeful story of what happens when we live, work, and love from a place of generosity, which is amazing. And this is going to go on sale like
Yeah, and it's
2025.
available for pre-order already now. It's available for pre-order
Okay.
already.
All
But
right.
the date is July 8th, 2025. So right around the corner.
Okay. All right. Very good. So maybe you'll come back and we'll talk about that
Yeah.
one. But this is the book I want to talk about.
Okay.
Lead with hospitality. Please write this down, everybody. Be human, emotionally connect, and serve selflessly when you're in the leadership role. So let's dive into this book. So, what started you down the path to putting this book together? I think it's fantastic.
Well, it started well before that book came out. It's been, as many people probably can relate that are listening, those of us in the hospitality industry for the last 15 plus years, bit of a roller coaster. So for me, I got an undergrad in 01, then 9/11 happened.
Right.
Then got to grad school in 08 and
Housing
2009.
crash.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all get back on our feet. And then in 2020, the
Boom.
pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I had worked at Walt Disney World during undergraduate studies each summer. And then I worked at Gaylord Palms Resort and Convention Center in Orlando, opening team, housekeeping manager, bell service manager. Then I went back to Disney and worked in resort operations, did another hotel opening at Pop Century, and then went to sales and marketing for a few years. And then I left and go to grad school. And then I landed out here in Las Vegas. The reason I say, to answer your question, long way around Robin's barn, is I spent a good nearly 20 years just out here trying to figure out what I was passionate about, what I was really great at doing in terms of where I would fit in the industry. And what I realized is I really loved the inspiring and encouraging and motivating part. And I started figuring out somewhere along the line when I got to the Cosmopolitan, hey, I kind of like writing. I kind of like speaking. So I had written a book called Ball Games to Boardrooms. That's a self-published book. That was before Lead with Hospitality. And so I did that one when I was working at Disney Vacation Club over at Disneyland, leading the sales team at Disney Vacation Club, just to kind of see if I could write a book. And so we put that one out. And then it was shortly after that when I said, all right, let me see if I can actually have one that's with a real life publisher and it's a big grown up book. And what I learned is you can't just write a book and put it out and expect, okay, everyone come hire me. Everyone let me come speak. You have to, everybody was like, no, you have to build a business that goes along with what you're saying and your message. So that's where this really began. So I just started researching. I was curious. I wanted to know, why is it that we love our favorite leaders? Why do some leaders encourage us to do more, become more, give a little bit extra, and ultimately deliver our best work, when other leaders, we really don't get that excited about it? And what I found is, like, we loved our favorite leaders for the same reason we love our favorite hospitality destinations, our favorite hospitality brands, like the Disneys and Marriotts and United Airlines, or wherever your favorite destination is. For me, it's like Maui and all around Hawaiian Islands. So it really came down to 9 times out of 10, it's less about what the leader does, it's less about what they say, and it's all about how they make people feel. So that's what led to Leading with Hospitality.
Right. And you've got a really great layout, and I think it's easy for people to follow. So, this is a definite, you got to buy it, you got to work the book. So, he's got part one. The first thing that people do to lead with hospitality is that they connect. Will you talk about connecting?
Sure. And it's similar to everybody right now. Just kind of imagine and reflect on your favorite hotel experience or a recent vacation experience. Or if you're a business traveler, a recent experience when you got off that flight and you took the Uber or the train or the cab to your hotel and you were checking in, and just think about a really great experience. And it probably started with a great connection right out of the gate with the person that welcomed you there. And that got everything started off on the right foot. So what I found in all of my research and my experience working out here at all those different places that I mentioned is that before people will open up and lean in and be open to any kind of coaching or any kind of motivation or any kind of direct, you have to have connection first. And there's a Peter Block quote that said, before connection, no work can occur. So that's where this all really started, is not just a connection, but an emotional connection. And so that's what led me to sort of dive deeper.
Yeah. And really, I think if we bottom line, it's like, I like you, you like me. I feel respected. I respect you, right? It's this thing where there's like a little spark at the beginning. You mentioned Marriott in your little run of hospitality places, and I just got back from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and I stayed at a beautiful autograph Marriott hotel. And the gentleman that checked me in, he treated me like he had known me his whole life. he's like, and let me make sure you know this. And I knew he was going through a script. Like, this is the thing that you do when you check somebody in. First of all, at being a hospitality person, I thought, he's actually following the script. Hallelujah. Good job on the training team, right? And then every time I saw that guy, when I walked through the lobby, he's like, hello, Miss Greer. And then I corrected him and I said, call me Nicole. And he's like, hello, Nicole. So I couldn't agree more that connection is absolutely huge. And I think a lot of people feel disconnected from their leaders. What do you know about that? Are people
Yeah, for
disconnected?
sure. I do. Look what you just did right there. How long ago was that experience?
3 days ago.
So 3 days ago. And look what you're doing already. Boom, right out of the gate. You're
Yeah.
telling stories about that person. And you're probably right now figuring out, how do I go back there? And
Right. I'm going to the Cloud Veil the next chance I get.
there you go. And I would be willing to bet, because that person made that connection with you on that human level, in that emotionally connected way, I'd be willing to bet any recommendation that person gave you while you were staying at that property, you were like, I trust you. Let me make a note of that.
That's right. Went to all the
But
restaurants he told me to.
yeah, I love them. I love all of their. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I was reading Switch, a Chip and Dan Heath. Switch, How to Change When Change is
Yeah.
Hard. They leverage research by the great NYU psychologist Jonathan Haidt.
It feels
I-U-T,
like it's
Haidt.
transforming in my
And
hands right
Jonathan
now.
Haidt wrote this book called The Happiness Hypothesis. And in his book, he paints a picture of what's
Yeah.
going on inside the human brain at all times. And
Right.
it's an illustration. What your story is, an illustration of this scientific research that you just unpacked. Ready? Here it is. Jonathan Haidt teaches, and so Chip and Dan use that metaphor in their book Switch, which I learned was like translated into 48 different languages and sold that many copies just yet. But I think if they could use this research, then my whole point of we ought to lead with hospitality. So here's the foundation. Ready? It has to do with your initial question of why connect first. Jonathan Haidt teaches us this:
Not yet.
what's going on inside the human brain. You know how we have the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain? Um, the left side of the brain, as we all know, is just logic and intellect and analysis. Whereas the right side of the brain is responsible
Yeah.
for the emotions and feelings and creativity and imagination. So here's what Jonathan Haidt says. Ready? He says, imagine a human sitting on top of a 6-ton elephant. And the person sitting on top, we'll call that person the rider. And the rider represents the left side of the brain. And the rider's responsibility, the rider's contribution to this situation is the rider, the left side of the brain, provides the direction of where the person's going to go. On the other hand, the elephant represents the right side of the brain, and that is the emotion, the feelings. And elephant's responsibility, the elephant's contribution to this situation is the right side of the brain, the elephant, the right side of the brain provides the energy and enthusiasm to move, the energy and enthusiasm to change directions, the energy and enthusiasm to even spring into action at all. Here's the leadership takeaway. Ready? If the rider and the elephant ever disagree on which direction to go or whether or not to spring into action, who's going to win that argument? Elephant actually wins every time. And the elephant's going to win every time because it's got a 6-ton weight advantage for one thing. And it's the elephant. It's the right side of the brain that provides the energy. And everybody, I would encourage you to write this one down or go back and rewind a little bit and listen to this again. John Maxwell says, we can't move people into action unless we first move them with emotion. And if you think about that in your own life, think about that in your own career, your own life, personally, in your personal life. The last big purchase you ever made, the last big decision you made, was it logic or the emotion that ultimately drove you to make the decision? 9 times out of 10, it was the emotion. So as leaders, we can learn some stuff and take that and go, wow, if we emotionally connect with the people on our team, we stand a better chance of being able to guide them, lead them, direct them, and give them feedback that will move them to move.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would call that a discretionary effort, right? So I'm going to give that
Yeah, well, that
extra
was just, I
from
was
the
just
guy
sitting
who's
think, how about an
traveled farther, not
illustration for
just
that
my
this that I'm
back.
bringing
Great.
up. And look
That's
here,
so
I'm
good.
40.
I love that.
I
So
guess in a
you
month
have
or two,
a little
in
chapter in
August
here called
16th, I'll be
Wally World
46.
through the eyes
But
of a child.
I remember
So
like it
I'd
was
like to hear a
yesterday.
little bit about that.
One of the, it might have been the we ever went to Walt Disney World. We stayed at, it was called the Royal Plaza, and it was on Hotel Plaza Boulevard, 8 square miles of the Walt Disney World Resort, but it wasn't a property. But still, we didn't know the difference. It felt like it was because we were right there. But I remember we had driven down there from Kentucky, welcomed my family, the Scott family party of four. I mean, we must have looked like the Griswolds rolling in there. And he was open arms. I mean, I think it was late at night. You step out of the car, it's humid, it's Orlando. And as a kid, my sister's 2 years younger than me. We just had vision. I remember like it was yesterday. We had visions of like, oh, pretty soon we're going to be on Main Street. Pretty soon Space Mountain. And pretty soon we're going to do all these magical things. And he was just like so welcoming. And he's like, hey, y'all go to the world while you're here. And we as a family had always like joked about that old, Chase and the whole gang. And we're, Dad, did you? He called it Wally World. And it was just like this moment. And then the most important part, though, I still remember this. He's like giving us we go check in and he's giving us a tour, walking us to our room. And it's all these things. But okay, here's what I recommend. Get to the park early to do this. Make sure you try to eat at this place. And my point is, it was the connection, feel welcome, comfortable, and important. And my mom and dad, again, I am 45 years old as we sit here right now. I can visualize my parents going, okay, yeah, like he said to do that, so we're going to do it. The same thing can apply for you and I as leaders, but we make them feel that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so fantastic. Okay.
It
And
comes
so
down to
then
this
the
really
second
related
thing that
to
you talk
mindset.
about is
I'm the
to
leader. So
accepting
a
yourself,
leader's
accepting
mindset
others,
is
and
very different from
accepting
the mindset of a
organizational
doer, if you
realities.
will.
This is a big
I
part
remember I
of
was
being
early.
a
I think I
coach.
had
So talk
been
a little bit about
at
that.
Gaylord Palms for a few years, back to Walt Disney World to open Disney's Pop Century Resort. And so I had to go. You're a fellow facilitator and person that's in learning development. So I had to go to Disney Tradition over again. I had to go to all the new hire and onboarding classes at Disney University all over again. And it was awesome. And they brought a fancy executive to kick off the couple days. He was a general manager at one of the Disney resorts.
Oh, that was so good for you. Hmm.
And he's talking to all of us. This was a class of either newly promoted leaders at Walt Disney World, or I think I was like one of two people that had recently come in from the outside. This was in 2003. So it was among the first people to come back in from external after 9/11 because they'd gone on this hiring freeze. But anyway, short story longer. This guy says, congratulations. Up until now, you've all been great doers. Your success has been judged by how well you have been able to do things. But now you're leaders and everything's changed. He said, now we're going to really judge like how good are you as a leader is not what you can do, but instead it's what you can take a group of people, turn them into a high performing team of people, and then go lead them to do things. And I have never forgotten that and I'll never forget it. And I always
Yeah.
repeat that to anybody who will give me the opportunity. So when it comes to having that mindset of a leader, I believe it's an exercise in emotional intelligence. When we can't have this sense of acceptance, and there's three things I love to share with people, particularly up and comers, emerging leaders. If you can learn to accept yourself for who you are, just figure out what are my natural strengths, my God-given abilities, things that I do better than most people, and they come pretty naturally to me, and lean into those. The quicker we're able to do that and be comfortable with that and let go of these things over here, like for me, it was math and finance. I'll never be that guy. And it was around the time when I was in graduate school at the Cornell Hotel School. I tried to focus in finance and real estate finance and development. And I mean, it's not me. As much as I wanted it to be, it's just not me. And so some things started opening up for me when I was able to just go, that's not me, but these things are. And then it just makes you a little bit more comfortable in your own skin. And when we do that, we're able to do the second piece, which is accept other people for who they are. Like we can't change people really, but we can meet them where they are, accept people for who they are. And the third one I'm still working on, and many of us probably are, is can you accept some organizational realities? Like you might have some great ideas and they're probably warranted and they might work and you might do them one day. But there may be some things right now in your organization or the world or the climate that are preventing us from doing those things. Can you just have a little bit of acceptance? And when we do that, we're able to bring our best selves and let go of the things we cannot control, but instead focus on the things that we have an opportunity to influence.
Yeah. And I do think that that's a big learning curve, especially early in your career, is to not understand why we don't have the budget or we don't have the people or we don't have the resources or the reason that your young, great ideas are getting shot down. There's usually some reality that we do need to accept. So that's good. I would say part of that is growing up. Accepting what you have and actually being happy and content with it. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. So connecting with that is fantastic. So the other thing I love about your book, Taylor Scott, is that on page 44 and 45, at the end of the first section of Connect, you've got like a little action plan. So instead of you just saying, here's all the stuff you need to do, you help them actually formulate a little action plan. And I have found that in all of the training that I've ever done, you can talk all day long about concepts, but until you ask people to apply, nothing's going to happen.
That's right. Yeah, that was inspired by a few things, that sort of style. And I do that in the next book as well. There's a Give Hospitality action plan as well, which will put the concepts of the next book into action. But I grew up like my mom was my kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
Both of my aunts were in education, teacher, principal. Both of my grandmothers were teachers. And I grew up in the South going to church every Sunday. And, the preacher would always have, all right, pull out your bulletins. There was always like this 3-part sermon, not only be like principle, illustration, application. And so that's where that comes from. I used to love that when you leave on Sunday morning, and be like, all right, here's 3 things to focus on this week. Well, I do that in the live learning experiences that my team and I do, same kind of vibe. And so what I try to do is give leaders this guide. And we've even sort of marketed it as somewhat of a book club guide as well for those interested, where you can have a team read, like get the book.
That's
and
right.
everybody
Lunch and learn. That's right.
Yeah, everybody read it together, and then you can go through those application things each week.
Okay. All right. Very good. So part 1 of leading with hospitality is connecting, right? Part 2 is serving. And the word hospitality in and of itself means that you would serve the other person, right? That you'd be hospitable. The first part of that is talking about empathy. And so share with us a little bit about why leaders need to practice empathy.
I just believe empathy is like a fast pass to connection. So use a Disney term again. And I didn't realize, I don't know about you, but when I did my career switch from being a leader of leaders, an executive in these actual roles in hospitality and entertainment, to switching gears and becoming a, author, speaker, consultant type of a career here the last 4 or 5 years, early on in this season, I had to learn stuff. Like I work for a guy who was really instrumental in helping me learn this business. But one of the first things he did is he brought me like this stack of books. He's like, all right, man, you want to learn this business? You want to learn how to do this on your own? And he plops down like 5 books. He goes, you got to know these things inside and out. You got to write your own programs, write your own books, be able to answer questions and guide people and coach them and develop them. He's like, you got to know. So one of the first things I learned was that empathy is a skill. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that. And so ever since then, I'm just like, man, I wish I knew that 20 years ago and 18 years ago and 15 years ago and 12 years ago. And here's why that's important. Actually, because it means that no matter how old we are, how long we've been in it, or how not so long we've been in it, we all have the opportunity to improve it. We can get better at it. All we got to do is practice it. So that was the first big thing. But empathy is just this fast pass to connecting on this human level with everybody so that all those things we just talked about for the last 20 minutes, they will open up. They will trust what we have to say, and they'll potentially lean in a little bit further.
Yeah, because here's the truth. You're leading humans, and they're messy. They're absolutely messy.
Are you ready to build your vibrant culture? Bring Nicole Greer to speak to your leadership team, conference, or organization to help them with their strategies, systems, and smarts to increase clarity, accountability, energy, and results. Your organization will get lit from within. Email her at nicole@vibrantculture.com. And be sure to check out Nicole's TEDx talk at vibrantculture.com.
And so what I love, Taylor, is on page 62, you have another put hospitality into action, and you give 3 tips for activating empathy. The first one is seek to understand. So I had a whole Stephen Covey moment when I was reading that. And then share your understanding and show that you understand. I think that is such a wonderful little model that you've put together. Seek to understand, share your understanding, and show that you understand. So can you talk a little bit about that and how that came together?
Yeah, that's funny you bring that up. And thank you. I feel seen.
I actually read these books you people send me. I'm learning so much. I'm getting so much out of it. Yeah, I'm a lifelong learner. Can't get enough.
Yeah, I remember when I was writing that part. This is a long time ago, by the way. I was reflecting on my own leadership journey, and there was this one person. I remember the conversation that she and I had. She was on my team.
Yeah.
And she's giving me some feedback, man. She was like hurling fire and brimstone, one of those kind of moments.
Well, we're all sinners. That's okay.
Well, no, it was good. It was like she was giving it to me straight. And it's funny, the same person, she just texted me 2 days ago, and I haven't seen this human being in over 8 years.
Oh, that's good. You must have a connection. Don't miss that.
Exactly. And she said that to me. Like, I was just very passionate. I mean, I'm a pretty passionate guy.
Yes.
And she was too. We worked at Disney Vacation Club together at the Disneyland Resort. And I remember we were just having this conversation. We were on the same side of this particular, topic. Don't get me wrong. But I was basically venting to her about how come all these people aren't doing what I'm asking them to do? And it's so simple. Why can't they just see it?
Yeah, everybody should grow up and do their job. Yeah. I've
She's
given
the
that
one.
speech too. I bet you all of you listening have given that speech.
Exactly. And she checked me. She's like, well, how about you show them that you actually understand what they're going through? Because I had said it, I'd done the work to connect with them. And even back then, I was like the king of like, let me send this magical email, and that'll get them. That'll really drive the behavior.
Their hearts, right? Get the elephant moving.
Yeah. And so that stuck with me. So as leaders, you and I, we can get out there and be in the moment and be present. It's like cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. Action will definitely speak louder than words, as long as the people see that we have taken steps to actually understand. The definition of empathy is not about agreeing. It's not even about giving compassion. It's about understanding what that person might be thinking and might be feeling. And those things I learned when the guy gave me the stack of books, empathy is also the ability to just feel what somebody else might be feeling. Well, in order to feel what somebody else might be feeling, you got to get out there and get in the boat with them, be in the experiences with them, so that you can kind of have this conversation with yourself. And here's one statement that somebody taught me, and I've been passing it along for years, that will show people. Here's the statement. If what happened to you had happened to me, I'd be just as frustrated as you are. Mm-hmm. If what happened to you had happened to me, I'd be just as sad. I'd be just as mad. And I used this one in real life one time with a guest, an irate guest at the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas on a Saturday night. I was looking fly in my suit and tie under the chandelier bar. It was like slot machines going, music, and my team, I was the director of loyalty marketing. And so those desks out and about throughout the casino where you sign up for the loyalty program, get your Players Club card, put it in the slot machine, give it to the table games people, do it at the restaurants and the bars to get your points. Well, my team had messed up this lady's experience 6 ways from Sunday. And she asked me to a leader, and then they escalated it. They escalated again, and then it got to me. And I was like, well, how come I didn't talk to Lisa? They're like, T. Scott, they want to talk to you. So here I was. And I tried using this, and it worked. And the way I did it with her, if people are listening here, if you're in hospitality, try this. Ready? I said, I got to be honest with you. That's not the experience we've set out to create. But my mom and dad come out here like all the time. My mom's a slot player. My dad loves to play craps. And I just looked her right in the eye. And I said, if what happened to you had happened to my mom, I can't even imagine how she'd be feeling right now. And the lady, the guest, she was like all this pent up anger. She's
about to tell you right.
She goes, quick. Well, thank you. She said, you're the first person to actually listen and show me that you understand why I'm so upset. So there you go. That's my empathy statement there to use to let people know that you actually understand what they're thinking or how they might be feeling.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll repeat those in case you're like, what did she say? What was it? Seek to understand, share your understanding, and show that you understand, and mention your mom. That helps too.
Yeah, works every time.
Okay, all right. So don't forget, part one is connect, part two is serve, and then you have a whole chapter about service. And here's what I have learned in this life is that if you can help somebody else out, there's this law of reciprocity. People will help you back, they will serve you back. So you say in the book in chapter four, to serve is to lead. Write this down, everybody. Listen, educate, act, and deliver. Talk about your little acronym for lead. Listen, educate, act, and deliver.
Yeah, maybe it's like a personal thing for me. And I do that all throughout the next book too, the little acronyms.
I
I
love
was
an
talking
acronym.
I was talking about mom a couple of weeks ago. My mom's like, well, that is the way you learn. You always have. So maybe that's like, but I just wanted people to have a way to remember. So the way I often do it is like we talk about serving and what it means to be a servant leader and what that means. It's like putting your team first, your team's needs first, their agenda above your own. And then it's like that upside down pyramid we all learned from Ken Blanchard and all those people. Like
That's right.
they're up here, and you and I as leaders, we're cheerleading. We're breaking down barriers. We're cheerleading them. And so the way I put it is, if you wake up one morning or one week or one month and you're like, I got to really start serving. How am I going to serve today? How am I going to serve in this season? Well, you can listen to people. You can teach them something. You can pass along some pearls of wisdom that you've been taught. Get out there, like we just talked about, be in the moment with them, take action, be active and accountable, and then deliver. Deliver on your promise for being a leader. And you and I know, and everybody listening, that in a leadership role, there's like an unwritten promise. Once we get in that leadership position, it's like an unwritten thing that we're there to help you with your problems because they're all coming to us. My paycheck's wrong. My uniform doesn't fit. I lost this, or I didn't do something right, or how come?
I don't know
Well,
how to help this customer, just like you talked about. Right.
so delivering, don't forget about that part. It's almost the little things that mean the most. That's why I chose to do the LEAD.
Yeah, I love that. And on page 85 for deliver, he says deliver feedback, which that's one of the things that I talk about consistently. People love feedback unless you never give it and you only give it when they're messing up. So, deliver feedback, deliver on your promises, deliver information, tools, and support to get your team on a consistent basis. I love that. All right. So, first part, connect, everybody with me. Second part, serve. Part three is engage, engage with people. So, the first part you talk about there is comfort. So, talk a little bit about how do we engage when we lead?
Yeah, the whole welcome, comfortable, important thing comes from when I was 22-year-old me, and I was on the opening team at Gaylord
Can you
Palms
imagine
Resort.
people? It was
Actually,
wide open.
yeah, I thought about that the other day. I had a call a week ago
Yeah.
today, literally,
Yeah.
with an executive coach. He wasn't coaching me, but I just was connecting with him,
Yeah.
and he gave me feedback. And he's like, "Look at you, man." He's like, "You're all over the place." It's like he's like, "You got all this energy." You want to teach executives and coach executives. They are kind of calmer. Well, I'm like, okay, well, good feedback. But yeah, imagine 23 years ago. It was worse. That's what I wanted to tell this. But anyway,
He knew.
um, they brought in a keynote speaker, a pre-opening of Gaylord Palms.
Yeah.
And I've never forgotten this moment either. And he said, friends, let me tell you something. Whether you're in hospitality for the next 2 years or the next 20 years, he's like the essence of gracious hospitality is the ability to make people feel welcome, comfortable, and important. And so this is the comfortable part of that. Like I'm convinced that to be an inspirational and transformational leader, we got to make people feel welcome, comfortable, and important. So this starts with just this sentiment, this mindset, this heart set, this idea of anything we can do as leaders to reduce worry, to take away anxiety, to give them the answers to the test, to let them know that we see them, we believe in them, and most importantly, we want them and we value them here on this team because the vision we have for this team includes them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too when people get comfortable, you get the true self of somebody. You don't get the ego version or this pretend version. People say all the time, and leaders, you've heard this, I'm different at home than I am at work. but really what you want is that authenticity all the way through. And when you make them feel comfortable, I think also people will be more likely to give you all of themselves. Again, that discretionary effort. So I think that's wonderful. Yeah. So you talk about that. And then the next thing that's in here is this idea, and don't miss this, everybody. And this is where lead with hospitality. And then this next book, give hospitality. All this is working together. T. Scott, I'm going to call you T. Scott. We're new friends now. T. Scott is talking about this idea of giving hospitality to your employees. Kindness is contagious, kindness is inspiring. And how do we activate kindness? Like, isn't it nice to work for a nice leader? It's very nice.
It's fabulous. Way better than the alternative. Way
That's
better.
right. Working for a jerk, really. So how do we do that? How do we show kindness? What would be some things that we could put into action that would help us show kindness?
Yeah, I was going to call this chapter courtesy.
Okay.
And I remembered some seasons in my career, some seasons in my life. You probably have some leaders in your past as well. So
Oh, we all do.
that's,
Oh
yeah.
my.
And like the thing about courtesy is you could fake that. You want to come across like you get the best in mind for them, but it could also be fake. But I chose on purpose, with a purpose for a purpose, to call this genuine kindness.
I love it.
Embedded in sort of the definition of kindness is generosity. It's doing things for others without any expectation of anything in return. And so the way I like to think about it, and what I would do back in the day when I was writing this and contemplating how to best package this up, all I did was think about the leaders that I respected the most and the leaders for whom I worked the hardest. And a lot of the people, like I just mentioned, I'm still in contact with today. It really came down to when they would give their time. They could be doing 100 other things.
Yes.
Right? They would give their time, and then they would give their talent. Like they would be absolute ballers in like these 2 or 3 things. And they would be like, let's take a walk. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Here's what I,
Here's
and
my
then here's
tips, my tricks, my
Right.
techniques. Yeah.
And then the other third was when they would give their heart. Like, sure, I get it. There's professional and there's personal, but to your point, authenticity is a thing.
Yeah.
And that leads to credibility. And so when that leader, when you and I as leaders can really just give our heart, like genuinely show that we care about that person, not only today, not only in this season, but we care about them enough to do things like work with them and walk with them and talk with them and give them the feedback that will help them on into their career, everything changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, which leads right into encouragement, right? Which is chapter 7, uplifting people to fuel their hearts, fuel their minds. And then ultimately, if you've got fueled hearts and minds, you've got a fueled team that's out there working hard for you. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts about encouragement? I love the quote you have on page 109. I made a note here. It says, be an encourager. The world has enough critics already. I've heard that before, but I was like, oh, that's a good one. I'm going to make sure I hold on to that one and I don't let it get past me. What do you think about encouragement?
Yeah, it's great, especially right now. Like, how much drama, division, it's crazier now, not only for us, but imagine being an up and comer right now. Imagine being an emerging leader that's just getting started and they're walking into all of this. So yeah, like I think it was Simon Sinek I saw say this one time. Look at the word encouragement. What word do you see embedded within that word?
Right.
Courage. Encouragement literally means to give people courage. And so I love that. And then the way I like to bring that one to life is I was sitting here one day trying to figure out what to write next, had, writer's block, and I just started Googling stuff and listening to music. And I came across this term called sawubona, Sawubona, sawubona. And it's from the Zulu culture in South Africa. And many people say that the Zulu culture in South Africa sort of inspires a lot of the other cultures in a lot of different countries in Africa. And then here it is, look at what's happening all the way over here.
I'm dude from Kentucky.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting inspired. But I'm a Disney guy, so like I remember the movie Avatar, both of them. If you haven't seen it, block off 11 hours. They're that long, but it's worth watching. They say, actually, here's what sawubona means, and they say it all throughout both Avatar movies. It means I see you. I see you, sawubona. So apparently you walking down the street in the Zulu culture, somebody says sawubona, and it means I see you. And then the grateful reply to that is yebo sawubona, which means until you saw me, I didn't exist. And then what I really love is that whole thing together. This is beautiful. The whole thing together means a person is a person because of other people. I read that and I was like, is there anything more leadership than that? Is there anything more hospitality than that. And I just think we need more corporate cultures like the Zulu culture, that we have leaders and teams and peers and partners that go around letting people know, hey, I see you. Hey, I see your value. Hey, the way you handled that last week, the way you just handled that 10 minutes ago, I see you, man. That was fabulous.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. All right. You also have an action plan for that portion of the book. That's portion number 3, and it's on page 125. And I love this here. It says, be kind and intentionally give your time, talent, and heart to those you lead. Sit down, list 3 ways you can give your time to your team and how that will help them improve, succeed, and feel like they belong. That is underlined with a dog-eared corner here, and that is because I think at some point there's this weird thing that happens, especially with very senior leaders. They're like, people don't want to hear from me. They don't want to know what I did in 1997. And I'm like, yes, they do. All these young people are dying to know, how did you get to the C suite? How did you pull that off? And if you would just give them time, I have a leader that's here right next door in South Carolina, and he has made it. He's got the country club and the stuff and the cars and all the things. And young people do want to know how you get there, not because they're just interested in material things, but they want to know, what does it take to end up and have a fabulous life like that. And so he takes a handful of people every single month to the country club for lunch. And it's like a big club. Oh, you got asked to go to lunch? And then he keeps up with these people, through their career. So I just think that's fabulous. Yes, absolutely. All right. So inspire people is our last thing, right? So we want to talk about part 4, inspire. Once people feel significant, they lean in, step up, and deliver their best. How do you know that's true?
Yeah, this comes from, I learned how to do keynote speaking from my favorite author, Mark Sanborn.
Oh my gosh.
He's the guy that wrote The Fred Factor.
Oh, so
And
good.
I love that book. Long story. I wrote him a note back in 2011. I was like, hey, you don't know me, but you're my favorite author. I love Fred Factor.
I
And
love
anyway,
the mailman story. It's awesome.
this dude, he wrote me back. We built a relationship. I used to do a blog I put out on every Friday. I asked him permission. That's why I reached out to him. Can I do a blog called Fred Friday every Friday to recognize a real life Fred out in the world? This is when I worked at the Cosmopolitan. He wrote me back and he was like, are you real? He's like, yeah, go ahead. This is great. Great for me. You're spreading my message. And we built a relationship. He ended up calling me back like a few months later, be like, you ever do any training? You ever do speaking? I'm like, yeah, I do it all the time at the Cosmopolitan. I'm looking to get into that. He used to hire me to go out and do Fred Factor keynotes on his behalf. I learned a lot of these things from him and people like him, John Gordon, Patrick Lencioni, and all these types of guys. I want to be like the next generation of them. But I remember Mark said one time, before he would let me go do keynotes on his behalf, he was here. He had me go watch him do one at Caesar's Palace. There were 2,000 people in there. He's like, come in with me, sit in the first row, take notes. He's like, no such thing as a free speech. I want your feedback afterwards. And I'm like, okay. So the whole time I'm sitting there, this is like 12 years ago, and I'm like taking notes and hanging on every single word. And I remember he said at one point in his delivery, which was amazing, he said, when people feel significant, they make significant contributions. And then me, at that point, I had just gone through 10 or 15 years of leading people, housekeepers, bell services, front desk people, sales and marketing, loyalty marketing, people out in the casino floor, like signing people up. And that gets old real quick. That every day, day in and day out. But you and I as leaders, when we let those people know, hey, your work, what you're doing, it matters to where we're taking this organization. It matters to how we as a brand are making these people feel one experience at a time. And I heard him say that, and then I would like go out and practice it, go out and see if it really works. And I would just see, and I'm getting chills 15 years later telling you this story right now, that I would see people, I would feel them completely open up, like they would be hunched over maybe, and then all of a sudden they feel significant. And now they're like walking with some purpose. Yeah. And so that's why I believe in the significance piece.
Yeah. All right. So don't miss that. We'll put that in the show notes. Everybody needs to read The Fred Factor by Mark Sanborn. So good. So are you in the National Speakers Association? You've got to be.
I'm not. I should be.
Oh my goodness. Does Mark Sanborn know?
Probably not. Probably not.
Okay, because I just want to invite you to join us. That's why I'm going to Scottsdale. The reason I'm going out to Scottsdale is because I'm going to get my certified speaking professional designation. And so I'll be out there. You should come. You should come see me at the National.
Well, congratulations. And yes, I would love to know the dates. Maybe I'll look at that for sure.
Yeah, it's the very last weekend, that Thursday, Friday of July. I don't know what the dates are right off the top of my head.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see you out there. All right, everybody. We've been talking to Taylor Scott. He is the author of a book I didn't even know he had. What was the book that you self-published? What was the name of that one?
Ball games to boardrooms.
Ball games to boardrooms. And so also he's got Lead with Hospitality, which we just talked through, which is so fantastic. And coming soon, is it the end of July or
July 8th. This time is a leadership fable. So this is a story about a young girl named Summer Grace. She leaves a toxic job and she goes to work at a more magical place called Kauwela Resorts. Kauwela means summertime in Hawaiian. And the
Nice.
story is about her 2 weeks on the job when she learns how Kauwela Resorts has built such a positive and productive workplace culture that is rooted in generosity.
That's so good. Okay, so you got to know that I just got back maybe like 4 weeks ago from Maui. You said that was one of your favorite places on the planet. I stayed at Hotel Wailea up on the mountain. And everybody's like, why are you staying up there? Why aren't you on the beach? And I said, because they told me that the hospitality was so good and it was fantastic. Yeah. So I didn't get this one read yet, but I read this one. And here's what we'll do. If you want to come back, T. Scott, that's what best friends call each other.
Right.
First initial
No
last
problem.
name. You can call me N. Greer if you want to. We'll maybe do this one on another episode of the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. Now, if people want to have you come speak, they want you to come do some training, they want you to help them, where can they find you?
Leadwithhospitality.com. Simple as that. My email's Taylor@leadwithhospitality.com. I'm tscott1502 on Instagram. I'm Taylor Scott on LinkedIn. So I'd love to connect. We have a team of 12 of us. We divide and cover the whole United States. And as recently as a few months ago, some engagements in London. So yeah, we do this every week when times are good, when there's not a pandemic. Even if there's a pandemic, we do it via Zoom. So we'd love to connect.
Okay, fantastic. All right, everybody, that's been another episode of the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. Why don't you go out there and lead with hospitality? Thanks, T. Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more like-minded listeners. Remember, the journey to building a vibrant culture never stops. Stay inspired, keep nurturing your vibrant culture, and we can't wait to reconnect with you on the next exciting episode of the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast.